Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you all to Billy James, or as I know him, Billy, since the age of 7. I've worked with Billy in his career since day one. And being a part of that journey, it's been an amazing opportunity to watch him grow into one of the top real estate agents on Long Island. He has a very, very strong ability to negotiate and connect with his clients. And so I'm not surprised that, I've had an opportunity to see him really flourish. And I'm excited to have him here today because I think he has served as a role model for agents that have joined the team. And I think he could be a role model for people just generally in the industry that want to take it up and have also a prosperous career. So Billy, thanks for joining us today. I'm happy to have you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right. So first of all, Billy, as I mentioned before, I've known you since you were 7 years old. You're my brother-in-law, but it's difficult to say that in truth because you've always felt more like an actual brother to me. So I'm glad you're here with us today. And so let me just start with a question.
Awesome.
When did you decide to get into the real estate industry?
When did I decide? It's funny, and this, but real estate has been around my family for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
My father did real estate growing up. And when I came out to New York, I was around you guys. You've been doing real estate for a long time now, and it was actually something that I actually didn't want to get into eventually. It's one of those things like
I've heard that before.
Your parents do, but here
right.
We are, both of us. So, when I really finally decided to make the jump into real estate was, when actually you and I had a conversation. You showed me the dream, and what I was doing at the time, it really wasn't, it wasn't very satisfying,
So what were you doing before you got into real estate?
So before I did this, I was working at Nordstrom. I was in management on the men's floor, the men's sportswear and designer floor.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in retail basically my entire life. Since I turned 17 years old. And it got to a point where, I wanted something more,
Right. Well, what was it that you felt like you were missing out on? What do you mean by more?
You know what it was? When I switched over and really decided to do real estate, it was really about helping people in a way that was a lot more fulfilling to me than just selling them a pair of jeans.
Yeah.
That was good, but in real estate, you're dealing with people's lives. One of the biggest purchases for a lot of people that they're ever going to make. It's very important for them. And
mm-hmm.
the satisfaction you get when they get those keys at the closing table and they have that big smile on their face, and it's life-changing. And that is really what keeps me going in real estate. I love that smile.
So how did you get there? So as you kind of implied already that it wasn't something that you necessarily wanted to get into because you don't want to do what your parents did before you.
Mm-hmm.
How did that transition happen in your mind?
In my mind, it was, like I said, I just kind of wanted more. I wanted to be able to help people in a way that I wasn't before. At Nordstrom, it was, I was going through the motions on the day-to-day. And I just felt like there was I could have a bigger impact. I knew that I had the resources. Thankfully for me, I was fortunate because I've had people close to me in the business for so long. And obviously I had an opportunity to jump on with you and learn from some of the best. And that transition in my mind, just being able to do something that would be, more beneficial and impact people's lives bigger than I was just by selling them a, designer t-shirt or some jeans.
Right.
That really is what kept me going. And, obviously, we all have to make an income, and I knew that, it's crazy. It's a crazy world, the real estate world, and you really have to structure your life a little bit different. But to me, it was worth it. I mean, you see the smiles, people are happy, and then the money and the commissions, they come second.
So you worked at Nordstrom, as you said, you were a manager there on the floor in the men's department. What did you learn in that experience that you were able to apply to your real estate career?
I mean, there's a couple things. For me, it was actually a little bit different because first and foremost, as you know, I was from Minnesota originally. I'm not from New York. So
Right.
when I moved to New York, I started on the men's floor and then transitioned to the shoes floor and then back to the men's floor in Nordstrom. And the first thing I learned was just how to deal with people in New York. That was the first thing.
Was it a culture shock?
Yeah, it was a huge culture shock. Yeah. So for me, that was the first thing that I had to learn. And, if I didn't have that experience, it would have been very difficult to do what I do now. The other thing is really just dealing with people in general, really getting to know people. You're not selling them something, you're solving a problem, right? So, at Nordstrom, they didn't fit into their jeans anymore. They needed a whole wardrobe, whatever it was. In real estate, it's also solving a problem, but on a much bigger scale, one that can impact, their whole life. We deal with people sometimes that are in hard situations. And, from Nordstrom, I learned that you got to talk to people. You relate to them on one person to a person. You're not dealing with just another client, a customer. You're dealing with another human being. And that's one thing I learned from Nordstrom that I brought in with me into real estate.
But it also sounds like it's something that's inside of you, because look, plenty of people work at Nordstrom. You knew people that were there a long time before you. They'll be there a long time after you, making a great income, right? Like having a life that's fulfilling to them, perhaps, right? You had guys like you talk about this guy, Don, and some others there that were, doing quite well, but it didn't work for you. Real estate, the stakes are higher and it's more meaningful to you. That's what I hear. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're kidding a little bit about, making light of the fact that coming from Minnesota to New York and having to learn the Long Island ways. But look, Minnesota is known for Minnesota nice, right? You're a nice guy. Everybody knows you're nice. They can feel the authenticity. Has that helped you, or has that gotten in the way of your ability to do business?
A little bit of both. I mean, it definitely helps me. It helps me, relate with people. It helps people feel more comfortable, people that I'm working with. But then, Long Island it's tough. These agents are tough, and any agents watching this, they know, it's not easy. And, I mentioned, like, my father had done real estate back home in Minnesota, but there it's almost done with just a handshake between the buyer and seller, Here, it's a lot different environment. So I really had to learn how to adapt. I did, grow a thicker skin, I would say, when I started this. I mean, even at Nordstrom and then coming over into real estate. So, at first it was a little difficult. People would try to take advantage, but that went away pretty quickly. And, it's definitely helps me on a level because I can connect with people very well. But I've also learned how to not let that affect, my negotiating or how I interact with other agents. And sometimes it can help, at the end of the day, we're all working towards the same goal.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. I mean, as much as I can be quote unquote nice in a set of negotiations, obviously, let me put it this way. My mother taught me that you get a lot more with honey than you do with vinegar. I mean, it's an old cliche, but it can be true. The key is knowing when it's going to work and for you, and when you kind of have to, like, you know, put that face on of,
Absolutely.
hey, but at the same time, I mean, look, I'd rather have the ability to be nice and use it as much as possible than the alternative, because I mean, for one thing, it's not, who wants to go through life being miserable? That's one thing. But two, it doesn't really usually help, right? Like when somebody comes at you, like let's say an agent on the other side, and they're trying to bully you or they're trying to be aggressive, right? It doesn't really make the job, it doesn't really fulfill anything. That's what I found anyway, right?
I would agree. Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, we're in the people business. We're all just people. We're all working towards the same goal. You know, the sellers want to sell, the buyers want to buy. You know, even though we're two agents, we're working towards the same goal. We're trying to get this house sold. I mean, you're trying to get the most money. I'm trying to get the best deal. But I tell all my clients at the end of the day, especially on the buyer's side, I want to get you the best deal, but I want to get you the house. And you know, in this market, it's a wild market. So getting the house is the win. And if you get the agents to understand that we're doing the same thing here, I want this to go through, they want it to go through, and just try to relate on a human level. That's usually the best way to overcome any sort of friction that I've found most of the time. But like you said, sometimes you still need to put up that shield and put on that face.
Yeah, but always professionally, right? Because, you know, if you lock horns with them and it becomes, you allow it to become about egos or who's going to win, at the end of the day, I think you're saying it, right? At the end of the day, what's important is that your client wins, right? Like they want the house, make that happen.
First and foremost. Yep.
First and foremost. Okay, cool. So how long have you been with me, Billy?
So I've been on the team now for just over 3 years.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow, time flies.
Yeah.
What has changed in the industry since you joined? Anything come to mind?
A lot. I mean, just the market really has changed significantly. I mean, when I started 3 years ago, we were in a pretty heavy seller's market. We all know that. But since then, after COVID and the surges, and now the market it's absolutely insane, and we've had to find ways to adjust. And I find that now it's more of, you have to get your buyers to understand they really have to have a lot of trust that you're here to help them. You're here to help them get the house, win the house, and get them to where they want to be. But they need to trust you. When you say, it's hard to swallow when you tell somebody that they have to go $50,000 over the asking price to get the house. But we're telling them that because we know that's what has to be done in order to get this deal. And first and foremost, I want you to get the house. So, it's just taking a lot more conversations and just trying to relate with people and get them to understand what's going on out there.
Right. So you do that really well by building trust, building rapport, so that they know that you're working in their best interest. The data helps too, right? Having a team of, mortgage brokers that we can lean into and let them know, hey, if the interest rates goes up by 0.25%, here's what that's going to be for you, right? So wouldn't it be worth it at the end of the day? $50,000 might sound a lot depending on the situation, but what it's going to cost you in the long run, right? So we have the data and the information to back it up. So it's not simply just about, hey, trust me, which is great, because I think a lot of agents out there, they're just like, hey, just Hail Mary, let's go, right?
Absolutely. And just like you said, I mean, too, having the data is a big help. Having people on the team, like our research team, to run comps, to know, what is a decent price. I mean, again, I want to get a price where it's going to get the deal done, but I also want to get you the best deal. And, some agents take advantage of it. And, having the knowledge and having the team to do the research to say, okay, this is where the price should be, combined with this is the price that it's going to take to get it done, is a big help for me. And it saves a lot of time too on our end, having a whole team of professionals who have been doing this for 30 years to
Right.
do that kind of research. And
because the example that you gave, you're like, that's a common scenario that we see where it's going to require the buyer to go 50, 80, even $100,000 over ask, again, depending on the circumstances, the market, and the price point that you're at. But
right.
but it's not to say that we're pushing everybody uniformly in that direction. You might find a house that's been sitting on the market for a while where maybe the seller overreached. If you can get it under ask, it's not like you're going to go in there and just want to, push
Absolutely.
the buyer to do something. That's where the trust comes in, where, hey, if I can get you a deal, we're going to get you a deal, right? Like if I can,
it.
Right? Okay.
That's exactly it. Yeah. If I think I can get you a deal, I will be the first one to tell you that we're going to get a deal on this house. But again, at the end of the day, I want to get you the house. I want to win it however we have to win it. I want to get you the best deal, but I want you to get the house.
Right. Sometimes just getting the win is the deal, actually, right?
That's the win. Yeah. Getting the deal is the win in a lot of cases now, especially. So, and having that team to really hound in on where the prices should be and having the knowledge to know, okay, this is a house we can negotiate on versus this is a house we have to go 50, 80, 100K ask is a huge help. It's a help for me and it's a help to, my clients.
One thing we know in this market, if you're a buyer and you like the house, there's going to be other people that also like the house.
Absolutely.
Right? But on the flip side, if a house has been sitting on the market, that's where the opportunity lies, because the buying public has already determined for whatever reason that the value isn't there. So if you're the one that sneaks in there and makes that's where when we say deal, that's where that can come from.
Absolutely.
What is the most rewarding part of your job, Billy?
The most rewarding part, I think I touched on it earlier, but it's really, it's getting to the closing table and seeing the smile on their face when they actually get those keys, seeing, the renovations, the pictures that my clients send me after they get into the house and they painted the walls and they changed the carpets, and how excited they are to be in there and to finally make that step in their life, whether it's somebody who's selling a house and needs to downsize or a first-time home buyer, that's fulfilling to me to just get them into something that they really love, that's life-changing. And I'm honored to have an impact, like I do. That's why I love to be in this business, because to know that I played a part in that is very rewarding to me.
And what has been the hardest thing you've had to deal with in your career? Yeah.
The hardest thing to deal with was probably just be the adjustment, the way, because, most of the knowledge I had about real estate before coming in and obviously joining you and joining the team was from my dad and how things are done in Minnesota. So adjusting to the way we deal with people here in New York, the process, that would probably have been the hardest part for me, was just kind of the adjustment and the culture shock, the overcoming that.
Okay. Well, I think you've accomplished it. You've seemed like you've settled in quite nice now.
Yeah. I feel a lot better than I did, within that first year when I started, but.
Right. Of all the transactions you've done, are there any that really particularly stick out to you?
Oh, I mean, there's been a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. For me to just pick out one to say that this is the most rewarding transaction would be.
Or no, I didn't say rewarding. Anything that sticks out, because it was crazy, because, like on the team, we're always like against all odds, whatever it is.
Well, I had one, I guess, recently where we were the listing side. We accepted an offer well above the asking price. 3 months into the transaction, the lender said that he was going to deny the mortgage, and thankfully, because of the team and the people that we are able to work with, These sellers, they were in a pretty tight position. They needed to get the house sold. And we were able to get them over to, one of our partners, one of our mortgage lenders that we work with frequently. And they were able to actually recover the deal and get it closed. It took a little bit extra time, but because we had those resources at our disposal, we were able to get the deal done where it was really against all odds. I mean, everybody thought the deal was going to die. They really thought it was done, but it just took one lender to dig just a little bit deeper than any other lender was willing to go to find a way to make it work.
What did that mean for the seller? Your client?
Well, for one, it meant a pretty substantial profit from the house because, we know in the industry, going back onto market after some time like that usually costs you, it can cost you pretty big. And it
What
also
else?
it was his family, his lifelong house. He grew up in the house. So there was a lot of sentimental value tied into this. And
so it sounds like it was a stressful situation for the seller.
It was a very stressful situation for the sellers. Yes, absolutely. And it was very fulfilling once we were able to close that deal because, that house meant a lot to him. He was really hesitant to sell it, but at the time there was no reason for him to keep it, but he really wanted, he wanted it to be handled with care. And I think we definitely accomplished that.
That's awesome. Billy. Yes. What is your superpower?
My superpower? A superpower. The thing that I do, I think the best out of everything is just relating to people. Like we kind of touched on before. A lot of my clients, after we close, we're friends. We go out to dinner. We stay in contact. So, my superpower is just connecting with people on a human level.
For an aspiring agent, what would you want them to know about the industry?
What do you know about the industry? There's going to be a lot to learn. You got to brace yourself. It's not something you just jump into and hit the ground and all this money's coming in. It's not the TV shows. It's not selling Sunset. It's not $1 Million Listing. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifices. But you put your mind to it, you stay focused, you hustle, you learn how to connect with people, you can get it done and you can be successful.
And if you were a buyer who's just getting into the market, what would you want them to know?
Buyer getting into the market, though, we have this conversation a lot. Brace yourself. It's going to be a wild ride, but we will get it done.
Good, short and sweet.
Yeah.
So, Billy, what are your goals for 2022?
2022, I want to close close to twice as many transactions. I want to help, twice the amount of people that I helped last year. Yeah, I just want to keep growing and getting better in every way that I can.
Cool. How about personal goals?
Personal goals, as you know, I just had a baby, 1 month old. So personally, I just want to be the best father that I can be. I want to be there for her. I want to develop, a balance, and that's it. Just be the best dad that I can be.
Amazing. Thank you, Billy.
Thank you.
I greatly appreciate the time you took to connect and share your real estate journey. I'm incredibly honored to have you on the team, and I'm so proud of your success. The sky is the limit for you, bud. I mean that. And I can't wait. Yeah, man. I can't wait to see what the future brings you. Yeah, bud. I love you.
Love you.